Gather round, children, and Granny will tell you a story. Warm yourself by the fire before we travel together to a kingdom of warriors and stone, a place of mighty winds and whispering spirits. Tonight, I will tell you of the lonely sentinel of Great Zimbabwe. Long, long ago, there lived a warrior named Tendai. He was not the tallest nor the broadest, but his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, and his heart was loyal to the Mambo, the king. His duty was the most sacred, to stand watch atop the western enclosure, the highest point where the wind speaks secrets from across the plains. From there, he guarded the approach to the hill complex, the home of the Mambo himself, and of the spirits who chose to dwell therein. But Tendai guarded more than the king. He also guarded a secret in his heart. He was in love with Shani, a woman who served in the royal household. They dreamed of a life together, but such things required permission, and Tendai was too devoted to his duty to ask. He would signal to her from his high post with the flash of his spearhead in the sun, and she would wave a cloth from the courtyard below. It was their silent language of love, spoken across the looming walls of the great city Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is a Shona word that means great house of stone. And oh, my little ones, it really was. 1,000 years ago, Great Zimbabwe was raised up as the capital of the mighty kingdom of Zimbabwe. It blossomed from the plateau, a towering city of stone built entirely without mortar. The Bantu-speaking Shona nurtured their masons and architects, women and men who understood the forces of physics and cleverly crafted each rock to sit securely against its neighbour. These walls, like the great enclosure within, housed and protected thousands of people. The city stretched over 7 square kilometres and grew into a famous place to trade. Even today, the archaeological remnants tell the story of how far the influence of this trade hub spread. Glass beads from Persia, porcelain from China, and Arabian coins. Great Zimbabwe thrived, rich in gold and grain. Tendai had vowed to protect this unimaginable wealth and prosperity for his people, especially now that his people included Shani. One fateful morning, he flicked his spear to catch the light and say goodbye to her as she walked toward the outer settlements to visit her parents. She smiled and turned away, flashing the soles of her feet as she walked. They were painted with rich red ochre, a glorious message of love just for him. The next time he saw Shani dying in the dust, he would not be sure where her blood ended and the ochre began. So then, you see, a great darkness had fallen upon the land. A rival kingdom, jealous of Zimbabwe's wealth, amassed for war. That very evening, scouts brought word that invaders were moving across the plains under the cover of night. The Mambo ordered a full alert. Tendai, on his high perch, strained his eyes against the darkness. His duty was to sound the alarm, a great ngoma drum that would tell the fierce army of Great Zimbabwe that they could now fall upon the enemy and drive them back. Victory was guaranteed. The warriors of Great Zimbabwe were renowned for their skill and bravery, and only the deepest arrogance could have inspired this foolhardy attack. But Tendai did not take this skill for granted. He stood motionless, almost unblinking, and silently called upon the birds, the chupungu and the hangwe, to help him see the approaching danger. A cloud scudded past the moon, and in the weak beam his eagle eyes saw it, a wisp of movement in the tall grass, like a hunting lioness. He raised his club to strike the drum. Then, carried by the warm wind of cruel fate, He heard splinters of a whispered command from the enemy leader. If, hear the drum, rush the settlements, hostages, shields. Tendai froze, club upraised. Shani was in the settlements tonight. This was the serpent in Tendai's ear. This was the choice that broke him. If he sounded the alarm, the city gates would be sealed. The warriors would man the walls. The city would be saved. But the enemy, true to their word, would fall upon the undefended huts in the valley. Shani's village. They would be slaughtered or taken, and he would have been the one who sealed their fate. If he did not sound the alarm, he could race down and try to get Shani and her family to safety before the fighting began. He could save her, and still, perhaps, find another way to warn the city without triggering the enemy's deadly rush. He chose the path of the heart, not the duty. He chose to try to save the one, hoping he could still save the many. But fate is a slippery stone. In his desperate rush, he was seen. A scout from the enemy party, hidden in the rocks, saw the king's own sentinel abandon his post and race toward the valley. The enemy commander, thinking his stealthy approach had been discovered, thinking that the warriors of Great Zimbabwe were all coming at once, changed his plan. He gave the order to attack immediately. And so, the enemy fell upon the outer settlements, taking some, killing most. Not because of a drum, but because they saw Tendai. He arrived not as a savior, but as the cause of the very chaos he had tried to prevent. He found Shani's body slumped across her mother's. They were holding each other in death's last embrace, her mother's arms cradling her at the end the way she had cradled her at the beginning. The red ochre of Shani's feet wept into the red ochre of blood that ran down her lifeless form. His howl of pain was lost in the beat of the drum. The city's alarms finally rang out, raised by others who had at last seen the threat. The enemy was repelled, but the cost was known. Tendai had failed. He had chosen one life over hundreds. Grief-stricken and shamed, he climbed back to his lonely post. They say he took his own spear and fell upon it, dying on the very stones he had sworn to protect. His spirit found no rest. His duty was unfinished, his love lost. And so, he remains. The lonely sentinel, condemned to keep the watch he abandoned, forever yearning for a forgiveness that will never come, and for the love he could not save. Just last year I heard of a young couple from Harare. Farai and Chiedza, their names are. And they were visiting the ruins of Great Zimbabwe. They climbed to the highest point, and feeling romantic, Farai joked, "I would wait forever on these walls for you, my love." His watch flashed in the sun, momentarily blinding Chiedza and making her laugh. As they descended, holding hands, they heard a distinct sound behind them, a single, sorrowful sob. They turned. No one was there. But as they walked on, Chiedza felt a cold hand slip into her free one, its grip strong and calloused, like a warrior's. It gave her hand one gentle, heartbreaking squeeze, and then let go. Forever. Sleep well, and check your window.